the National Company Law Tribunal reserved its order on crisis-hit airline Go First plea seeking voluntary insolvency resolution proceedings. Go First had approached the NCLT with an application under Section 10 of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. The low-cost carrier has sought various interim directions from the NCLT, including restraining lessors from taking back aircraft and regulator DGCA from taking any adverse action against the airline. We also have this report from earlier today where my colleague Samir Dikshit gave us all the details of the latest developments.
Go First airline, which is already going through a tough period, has applied for appointment of an IRP, interim resolution profession or resolution professional in the NCLT court Delhi, and airline is seeking that the appointment of IRP will help the airline to brighten their chances for revival. This will also help to protect their assets like the aircraft or the bank guarantee, and by this they can further deepen the confidence in the airline amongst the customer. So the important hearing on this plea by Go First hearing is over in NCLT, and the order has been reserved by the court. It is likely to be pronounced today later evening. But yes, this was an important hearing where Go First made the point that yes, IRP can save the airline because they are still having around 25 to 26 aircraft that can fly. Out of 56, 28 aircraft are grounded. Not just this, there is a bank guarantee and multiple other assets which need to be protected. Whereas on the other side, the lawyers from the lesser side, they raised the argument that the interim order of providing IRP or providing any relief is not possible, and the Parliament annexure does not provide this sort of relief. So there has been an argument and counter argument. The hearing is quite over and the order has been reserved, and it is likely to be pronounced later in the evening. Now, talking about the tough time, earlier we have seen that Go First has cancelled their flight for 3 days, that is from 3rd of May to 5th of May, and now they have ended this date. Till 9th of May, the flight will remain cancelled. And not just this, the ticket bookings will be cancelled, will not be done till 15th of May. So it clearly seems that the tough period for Go First airline and the customers is likely to deepen in coming days.
And let's get you more on the Go First crisis. A second meeting of lenders is set to take place today to discuss further plans with the company's promoters. My colleague Ankur Mishra joins in with more details.
Yes, lenders to Go First are discussing various options once again, as the meeting which happened on Wednesday remained inconclusive, and there is a separate strategy which they are chalking out apart from what needs to be done as far as the NCLT filing is concerned. Remember, Go Air has moved to NCLT, and hearing is going on in the tribunal for insolvency proceedings, but lenders want their full repayment of debt, and that is an exposure of around rupees 6,500 crore. All the options are being discussed in the meeting, including having a discussion with promoters as well, because an option of debt restructuring was supposed to be considered, but since the application is already filed in NCLT, now it needs to be seen legally if that is possible or not. Apart from that, as a respondent to the petition which is filed by Go First, lenders needs to give a reply in the court as well, and for that a response will be prepared in the meeting on how to go about recovering the whole debt of around rupees 6,500 crore.
And after the setback for Go First, airfares are on a rise this summer, up as much as 18% in some cases. Let me go across to my colleague Bhavya, who's getting us more details of how these soaring prices are impacting passengers.
The Go First crisis is the talk of the town. But how does it exactly impact you? The suspension of flights and routes by the Go First airline has led to a surge in the prices across different airlines. Let's look at the top 10 routes where ticket prices of May 5, that is tomorrow, have surged by more than rupees 10,000 as compared to the usual prices. Number 1. The route from Delhi to Leh, which is usually cost at more than 4,700, has increased to more than 26,000. Srinagar to Chandigarh, which is approximately 4,700, has again increased to more than 26,000. Chandigarh to Srinagar, again, which is approximately around 4,000, has increased to more than 24,000. Leh to Delhi, which is approximately around 8,500, has been surged to more than 25,000. Srinagar to Delhi, which is somewhere approximately 4,500, has reached 17,700. Delhi to Srinagar, which again lies in the bracket of 4,000, is now more than 15,000. Delhi to Patna, which is somewhere around 3,500, is now more than 14,000. Mumbai to Lucknow, which is again around 4,000, is now more than 14,500. Mumbai to Chandigarh, the prices of which are approximately around 5,000, are now more than 15,000. Delhi to Bagdogra, which is again around 4,200, is now more than 13,500. Apart from these top 10 routes, the two most busiest and most common routes of India, which is Delhi to Mumbai and Mumbai to Delhi, have increased from approximately 4,000 to more than 13,000 for May 5, that is tomorrow. Flights to Dubai have also seen a surge of more than rupees 5,000. So amidst all of this, to minimize the trouble caused to the passengers, DGCA has ordered Go First to process the refunds to all the passengers for all the suspended flights.
And to speak more on the crisis in Go Fast, what it means for passengers and will go the Kingfisher jetway, I'm joined now by Satyendra Pandey, Managing Partner at ATTV, and Mark D. Martin, Founder and CEO of Martin Consulting. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us this evening on ET Now. Mr. Pandey, let me begin with your take and your experience also with Go, which is right now really in rough weather. Is it only Pratt Whitney which has caused this problem? Because that's how they have put it, right? Pratt Whitney didn't give us engines, half our flights were grounded, we don't have revenues to run the airline anymore. Or is there a deeper part of the story?
Yeah, Tamanna, good evening, and thank you for having me on. Any airline failure, it usually cannot be pinned to just one thing. By the numbers, if we look at it, the last 3 years, the airline has had losses in excess of $100 million. The 900 crore loss in FY22 increased to 1,800, and we estimate the loss this year will be between 2,100 and 2,300 crores. Your reporter told us about the dues to the bank, which is 6,500 crores. In addition, there's 1,200 crores due to vendors and 2,500 crores due to leasing companies. Now, these things don't happen overnight. This has been building up over a period of time. And I disagree that you cannot solely pin this on engines, because other airlines are flying a similar fleet with similar engines, similar routes. Go has not spoken about alternate capacity plans, utilization. And if you look at their operational data for January, February, and March of this year, even with a fleet of 22 airplanes, they were flying at a on-time performance of 50%. There were multiple cancellations, and while the load factors reported was very high at 90%, what is hidden in the fine print is these were because flights were being clubbed. So Delhi or to Mumbai, you would have 3 flights, 2 would be delayed and everyone would be put on the 3rd flight. So it's a series of events. They were also sourcing an emergency credit line from the government. They sourced 300 crores, and today it was mentioned in court that they can only pay the employees if another 200 crores is sourced. So it's a series of events. Engines are certainly one of the causes, but not simply the only cause. And I feel it's very tough for the airline to return from this predicament because they are in the peak season. 9th to 15th of May is peak demand, as you saw with the surge in airfares. And were it to start again, I think the bookings will not come that soon. It would take 2 to 3 months for the bookings to build up, which means you have to provision for that. So their whole route from IPO to insolvency has been laden with a lot of missteps, and I would even go as far as to say management failures.
Yeah, absolutely. Management failures are part of it. Environmentally, it's difficult as well. I want to talk a bit about passengers, and we put out a report which my colleague Bhavya did, of how fares have shot up. I'm just going to pull up those graphics again. And we've picked routes where Go was quite dominant because they'd built up their niche. They have about 6% market share and they built up their niche. Mark, I want to talk about what really this is going to mean for passengers. Because on those routes, there are no alternatives immediately ready. And as Mr. Pandey said, the summer peak season is on. It's going to be a time of pain.
Tamanna, great to be with you this evening. Thanks for having me. I'm going to partially agree with what Satyendra said. The problem with the historic losses that Go Air has accumulated has and is because of the Pratt Whitney engine. Now, it's not just Go Air. It's Indigo, it's Air India, Turkish Airlines, Lufthansa, Air Baltic. There are a whole host of airlines that have seen catastrophic incidents, emergency landings, in-flight shutdowns, and it's serial events. It's not something which is random. And this raises a huge concern on the reliability of Pratt & Whitney because it has been historic. This was, let's not forget, in 2017, the DGCA grounded all Pratt & Whitney engines. The DGCA has also followed that up by announcing a deadline to replace these engines by 2023. So it begins and ends with Pratt & Whitney. And that's where Go Air is, obviously, they really can't accumulate, they can't bleed anymore with the losses they've had as a result of their fleet going down. So once your fleet goes down, you're not going to make money anymore. And that's accumulated losses because of the Pratt & Whitney engine. Now, where we are today, we're at a ridiculously precarious position and a spot because India now enters into its peak summer holidays and airlines do not have spare capacity to deploy. Unfortunately, and I hate to say this, but we're going to see the price of tickets soaring more than 50 to 70%. And not just that, because while seasonally and usually in the past, airlines have gotten more aircraft and wet leased aircraft and damp leased aircraft to fly in India and try and take as much as the load and demand. Right now, we've got a ridiculously, a demand which is right up in the stratosphere and a supply which is pretty much just about at 10 feet, and that's very, very unfortunate. And the biggest loss in this is the Indian traveler and consumer. So holiday plans are going to be shelved. We're going to see people increasingly opt and choose rail as a platform because not everybody can afford a 30,000 rupee ticket. Not everybody can spend that kind of money on a holiday, especially post-COVID when we're just about, India's barely licking its wounds and trying to recover.
Right.
So, this is absolutely, it's going to be pandemonium. And I hope better sense prevails with airlines, Tamanna, because I really hope they balance their pricing and not milk the public.
The point is, and I want to come to Satyendra on this. So Go has to give refunds. They've said we'll give refunds. DGCA has given them a couple of reminders. On social media, etc., passengers are saying we're not getting the full refund, we're not getting it soon enough. But my question to you, Mr. Pandey, is just a refund going to be enough for a product that is dynamically priced? If I have booked a ticket for the 4th of May, 3 months ago, I planned, right? I planned 3 months, 6 months ago, I've planned this travel, I've booked a ticket, I've got a good rate, and you've pulled the rug from under my feet 2 days before I travel. I now have to rebook at 3x. That's not fair. Is it okay for me to just get a refund of what I paid when I had booked in advance as a customer? This is really breaking the faith of passengers in India.
Yeah, Tamanna, you're right. But by the same token, there is no enforcement mechanism for the refund. So while the DGCA has said you have to refund everything booked till the 30th, which is around 300 crores, say you are not getting that refund or there's a delay, what is the enforcement mechanism? Either you go to a consumer court or you file with the DGCA. At the same time, the airline is claiming they can't even pay salaries and they need to draw an emergency credit line. So I'm not very hopeful on the refunds. And perhaps the government has to look at it and step in, because during the pandemic, the government put in a price floor, which meant that airlines, even if they wanted to offer a ticket cheaper than, say, 4,000 rupees, they were not allowed to do this. So by the same token, in the consumer's interest, perhaps the government should consider a price cap where you will not see ridiculous fares like 25,000 and 30,000. Not because this is something new, but because the government has done it before. Earlier, it was done in the interest of the airlines, and perhaps now it's time to do it in the interest of the consumers.
I want to understand this correctly, Mr. Pandey. Are you saying that there is no way to enforce that Go First returns the money of passengers who booked tickets? Because they took that money. Yes, they can't pay their salary staff, they're bankrupt, but they took that money to provide a service which they now just haven't. So by law, can they not be forced to or asked to give a refund? Can that refund be enforced legally or not?
Consumer court, but that would involve every customer who doesn't get a refund going to consumer court. And if you look at the court arguments today, most of the arguments put forth by Go were for interim moratorium, which means we don't have to pay out anything. Now, while Go has said they will issue the refunds to the tune of 300 crores, I'm only pointing you to the numbers where they're saying we are unable to pay staff that has already worked here, and we need to draw on an emergency credit facility of 208 crores. If they're unable to do that, how will they go ahead and issue refunds? That just beats me.
Comments on that, because that's really bad news, and that's very unfair. And in a industry where it's not, completely out of the blue for an airline to fail, this is going to hit the confidence of passengers. You buy a service and then suddenly, poof, that service vanishes and no one gives your money back. You have to go to court on your own.
Yeah, Tamanna, in all frankness, Satyendra makes a very valid point. In India, being one of the largest aviation markets in the world, would you believe it that till today we don't have an air traveler dispute appellate tribunal? The US has got one, Europe has got one, even China has got one, where a traveler can take it up to a special aviation appellate tribunal and get the right legal judicial remedy that he needs. We're not even structured in India for that. And I agree on the fact that, they've committed to 300 crores of refund, but that's their commitment. We really don't know what the real refund figures are going to be like. And I think it's absolutely right. First of all, the DGC has got no business to be regulating the price of ticket, because expenditure and operating cost is an airline purview and domain, and it's based on supply and demand. So if the DGC is going to put a low cap and a high cap, then the DGC should also put a minimum revenue guarantee for airlines, because when the price of fuel goes up and when things turn south, the airlines take a walloping impact. Even now, a single flight is overburdened by 15,000 rupees because of an UDAN surcharge. So we're stealing from airlines, and trying to give to the so-called poor UDAN to make it viable. And that's absolutely unreasonable. Over that, you add your GST, your VAT, your excise. The wafer is ridiculously expensive. And clearly, there has to be balance. And my heart goes out to the traveler and the consumer, because you're right. He's planned her holiday. He's picked up his ticket 6 months before. He's eagerly anticipating his flight. And now guess what? It's canceled. And what's even worse is the competing airline, whether it's Indigo, Go Air, or anybody, are not even going to step in to accommodate him. This isn't about refunds. It's about honoring your commitment. And I think the DGC should change its track from refunds to directing other airlines to honor this booking and set up some kind of a loose interline agreement. Because if you're made up your mind to travel, you will still travel. And that disappointment is unfathomable.
And it's quite unfair. I'm not sure why other airlines would want to come and pick up that tab either. But it's an interesting option to look at. Thank you so much, Mark and Satyendra, for joining us. But there's more news coming in.